school counter to LeBlanc, where back in the days when a lot of LeBlanc
people up there. So actually a very controlled early game, all things considered, for G2.
That's why really the strategy for SKT, I think, is to control the enemy topside jungle like we mentioned, because Galio's going to auto push, it's going to miss minions like we've already noticed. Very new into the meta, very difficult and haphazard to get the auto attack in when you're largely under turret anyway. So it's really on Olaf to profit from the fact that top lane will be perma-pushed into Shen's turret.
And we've seen a little bit of that already. Cooney moving us, getting wards deep into that side of the jungle. Peanut did steal away the red as well, so you can kind of see where SKT are putting a lot of their pressure. Other than that though, seriously looking great for Perkz in the mid lane, actually 20 up on Faker right now, and no first blood given just yet. Gold nice and even. G2 happy to play a nice controlled early game and looking strong here. Might even get something. Actually, Trick jumping on a Faker. Faker trying to get out, but Perkz going to follow through. The all procs. Bang here as well, though. Faker taking a lot of damage, but G2 so much affected. There's Bang. Here's the TP down as well. Peanut also getting in for Sven. Trying to start him up. Good two-man shockwave. Gets on the Bang, but it's not quite enough damage. Perk flashed up, but Hooney gets a four-man taunt. I think it might have been all of them. There's the little multi. First blood's down already, and then chasing it on for Trick. Wolf getting low with Sven. Tries to chase him out. Expect. Gets a kill back for Trick. Does go down to Galio. Hooney now caught out 1v3 versus the rest of G2. Can he get out of this one? He doesn't have his ultimate. He's going to get stunned by Sven. He needs to try and run out, but a good block on the Justice Punch. Damage is massive, though. Galio doing so much in the early stages, but I think it's enough. There's the taunt. Sven gets another kill.
How is Galio already a raid boss when it comes to tankiness? The snipe away to get the second kill as well. Hooney's Galio yesterday was monstrous against TSM, and the lead he's got already after a bit of a haphazard laning phase is going to really reward SKT.
Yeah, timing on the teleport gives him the 2 kills, but G2 was able to get 2 over, so we were nearly in a standstill before that, and we're mostly in a standstill after. We're going to watch this one more time, though. The big thing is Bang's sneakiness getting in the lane here, because you start the fight by chucking Faker low. I was actually expecting a shockwave early on to try and catch Faker, but they're respecting his flash. They don't want to blow shockwave onto nothing, but it's Bang who surprises them, and then Perkz without summer spells can be run down.
I really respect them for actually pulling off, expecting Bang to come in, but Hooney's teleport, and then getting basically everyone on the taunt into the wild growth. No one has health bar or really resources to follow up on it, so it is very much a solo mission, so it's actually relevant that Hooney snipes away the second kill. Otherwise, SKT would have traded down in this scenario.
Well, bit of early action, but teams kind of in a whitewash. SKT technically up on goal, but 500 isn't too much here. Drake, the Mountain Drake's still up, and of course Tao's feeling pretty healthy on both sides, so everyone just chilling out for now. First exchange, though, very neutral.
Yeah, and I do want to point out Hooney's itemization on Galio here. I feel like his item choices are actually almost always correct on any champion he plays. He's played 2 Galio games before, and in those games he's built Ninja Tabi, Sunfire Cape, Iceborne Gauntlets into Thornmail. And those are games where he's dealing with a lot of physical damage threats. Here, even though Kennen will do physical damage, it's a lot more magic damage, and the only real physical damage is from an assassination character who's never going to be hitting him. So he's going Spirit Visage first, and most likely Mercury treads after that one. I really love the choice.
Bagoon again, 2v2 starting. Shockwave hits Peanut, but he holds through it. Now Trick caught out of position, just has to run him down and try to get a sniper. Faker gets the kill. First 2v2 win, SKT.
Yeah, really close skirmish there, able to back away in the bot lane. Also some trading, but trading up is SKT. This time Faker does actually hit the skill shot to pick up his first kill of the game. The Orianna Shockwave, he really didn't contribute much, just a DPS onto the Olaf because the ult was already popped.
Yeah, and there's much more tankiness on the side of SKT, not to mention in skirmishes like that, the Ignite can actually turn the tides when the levels are very close. So notice how Faker jumps in, doesn't even get both parts of his Q, and misses his charm. So that's why G2 feel pretty confident, but they didn't quite focus right, and now Perkz is without summer spell.
It again, Perkz trying to get back to his tower, but he's got no chance. Faker nails that charm and gets the kill.
Yeah, first charm he hits, but of course got the previous kill, and now that really tilting strategy of having to walk to lane, the walk of shame, the second time after you die, after a repeated gank, and Faker pushes up. Trick's taking a bit of free damage.
Another charm. Might look to dive. No, not yet. Just damming on the turret. Great snipe. One more. Peter lines it up, takes down Trick.
The Lee Sin mechanics coming into the fore on the cube, but Trick didn't need to walk up. We've seen too many junglers this tournament get disrespectful walking up to line skill shots, and Trick plays the ultimate price.
Situation where you're damned if you do, damned if you don't. He backs away, they give away first turret to Faker, but because he could not dodge the Qs from Peanut or the charm from Faker, he falls. So gets outplayed right there, and that's an 0-3-0 hazard.
And now you have to adjust your emotions because G2 were playing very well through their mid lane, but 2 deaths and the turret going down when they were behind the goal is not lane.
2v2 going to be a 3v2 right now. Here's Expect with a stand united. Look at the whoop and a great knock up there. going to deny that. Now Bang turns around, but gets exhausted and stunned.
Damn.
Wolf talks about it's hard for supports to make highlight plays. That's about as highlight as you get on Lulu. Interrupting, expect mid-taunt.
Oh no, this just feels so bad for the mid laner. Peanut's gonna run Perks down with the ultimate ticking away. Actually ulti there by Perks, but it's just not enough. Perks, no tower to get to. Here comes Galio. Peanut, low on mana, might actually save him, but Huni is gonna chase it. He's got flash. Perks gonna have to go towards absolutely no one. Teammate's not there, but might just run away far enough as the blast cone should get him out.
But Trick walks into a Galio.
He's a charm now as well. That's a mistake. Just as much for the knockup. Gets out, but Faker's got more than enough dashes for that one.
Trick's not really acceptable to die in that manner. Back to back, you have to say largely. Perks did so much work. Sidestepping skill shots will get out, but his jungler just sweetens the engage for SKT.
Yeah, about to give Perks credit for dodging those axes at close range, which he deserves, but then Trick just throws it all away. By trying to walk straight into a Galio when his mid laner was nowhere to support.
Yeah, 0-4 and 0 stat line for 13 minutes. I mean, these players have very different stat lines. They've been playing different styles of champions, so the DPM stats that, for example, are floating around are misleading, but Peanut has been on the top, and it's another one of these wayward early games for Trick.
Yeah, unfortunately for Trick, he falls towards the bottom of almost every statistical jungle category in this tournament. Low kills, low damage, low KDA as well. But watching this one...
Why? Why does he walk up?
He's trying to get a good trade, but he's just not necessarily paying attention to the map. They try to go on Bang once again.
Bottom again, 2v2 starting. Bang low. Here's Ben trying to do the damage. He already got Polymorph. They're going to try to back around that damage. Disgusting as there's one for SKT. Mid-feed might make it a second as Wolf is looking for the slow. Flash Kittlelands gets it. Now going to lay the autos in. As Trick down here to try and turn it around. Mid-feed grabs the flash, but here's Perk down as well. Flash out from Bang is TP'd up from SKT. Peanut forces Perk flash on the other side of G2. Back towards her outer turret. Peanut, is he going for a dive here? G2 getting real far back.
Now it feels like every lane on the map is collapsing for G2. The mid lane was what was the bastion of hope. The two ganks and then the turret going down really removed that. Now Orianna will be roamed on very comfortably by Faker. You know, so little Expect can do in the bot lane, and even in the top lane, sorry, and bot lane is already also feeling the brunt of the pain.
And these are the disaster early games you hope to avoid. Expect was holding up in the top lane for quite a while, but Huni has made such a large impact on the rest of the map. Since then, you're seeing some of the advantage, and also outplays by pretty much everyone else on the SKT lineup.
And that's kind of been the thing for SKT this tournament, has been the casual sidesteps on skill shots that we don't necessarily see with any regularity from other teams. The interrupt from the Wild Growth also. So we're going to see a replay. This was once again G2 opting. They wanted to have a pressure point. They wanted to be winning in at least a single lane, but Bang turns around. We know what Lulu can do, and a crit comes through from just the Brawler's Glove, and that cements the first kill.
Yeah, even though G2 were the ones to engage that, they weren't even close to being able to win that fight. So that was definitely one of those situations where they really felt the need to make a play, and I think we're hoping they could catch Bang without Wolf there. But Wolf was in Fog of War, I believe, and surprised them.
And now it feels like we kind of have to take a step back, because we have to remember that, okay, G2 probably penciled in this game as a loss. SKT came in heavy favorites. But to me, the real question is, can G2 stabilize the rest of the game? Even in a loss, they cannot have a scenario where Trick dies another 5 times in the next 10 minutes. They cannot have a scenario where lanes are just trying to make individual plays and lose sight, because they have a must-win game coming later in the text of the tournament.
Well, not looking great so far. 7,000 gold up for SKT and 4 turrets to nothing. I think Perks has to feel so frustrated because Ari, despite being behind, has made so many other plays. I mean, Faker's Ari is pretty good when you have Peanut as your jungle backing you up and Huni as your Galio coming down from top lane. Stuff like this happens where Huni and Expect are trading, and Expect, he's not winning.
He's got no pressure. There's nothing he can do to push up, and of course the lanes have kind of disintegrated already, so Bang is there looking for a kill anyway. There's no good decisions left, really, for anyone on the side of G2. It's just what SKT leave up to them while they make plays around the map.
Yeah, and is this what SKT looks like when they're actually angry? Because they did drop that one game, and this is now a 7,000 goal lead at 17 minutes, one of the biggest in the entire tournament. Peanut, in particular, continues to just add to his stat line. As far as stats within the first 15 minutes of the game, Peanut has only died a single time this tournament, and now has 28 kills in those, or sorry, 25 kills in that moment. So just incredible stats.
And we can even widen that stat line, Jack. He has 48 kills now in the tournament, most of any player. in the group stage, and he has 10 deaths. Only 10 deaths and now coming up to 9 games. He has the least deaths and the most kills. It's just insanity from the jungle. A role where often you might be second or third most deaths on the team.
The SKT stealing away the red buff. I did notice the Mountain Drake is still up, and that's just how much SKT have been playing in these skirmishes. No one's going towards the Drake. SKT, we're taking the towers without them. We don't need it.
Yeah, and another thing that's a little surprising to many about SKT in this tournament is how low their ward numbers are as Faker gets jumped on clearing a ward.
It's okay, Faker just use the ulti, gets out.
Yeah, is how low their ward numbers are, but I do want to point out their trinket choices. In almost every single game, Faker is going sweeper. Almost no other mid laners are going sweeper, and as a result of that, his wards are extremely low. But also, he's not buying that many control wards. You can see he's sitting on his refillable potion this late in the game. You can argue that SKT is so pushed up on the map so often and recalling so infrequently that they're just buying fewer control wards, but also they're almost always with triple sweeper because the name of the game is denying vision rather than acquiring it because they're human wards later in the game.
I mean, what was our storyline for Peanut in 2016 on the Rocks Tigers? The battle ward. He was warding by being in the face of the enemy jungle. Well, they got about 5 battle wards, it feels like, right now for SKT, so they could at least been afforded to be a lot more conservative with their ward usage, which means all that gold lead already around 8,000 is put into damage, and that's why it's time for skirmishes at any point.
Well, G2 hoping for something optimistic perhaps in the top lane. 3 people just sitting in that middle brush in the top lane, but Wolf getting some wards done. I think hitting the clan, making sure they have enough vision. And G2 might be here for a long time, hoping a customer comes through, but can hit the recall button and not get anything out of the play.
SKT doesn't need to go there. You know, they don't need to go there. They have some information about what brushes were crossed, so they may have an idea what side of the map the enemy is on, and that's why you can see Faker already popping the sweeper, already shooting his Q through brush, because why give over anything? That's what they were probably criticized for so much yesterday, was what they gave away, and today was about tightening the fundamentals going into the bracket stage.
Yeah, they also had the buddy system right there. Wolf was hanging just far enough back, and that's kind of what he was doing in the bottom lane with Bang there that allowed him to turn the 2v2.
Well, here we go though. Play starting stage United on this Vemba. Faker looking for the 1v1, going to be a 2v1. No, 3v2. SKT, of course, there first as Minzy's going to join and try and save the teammates back. Looks for a shockwave, barely gets Wolf, and Spence just gets annihilated by Peanut, the wild growth, keeping it alive through everything else in G2. Every
Bang's waiting.
Going wrong, and here's Bang. Monster flank here from the Twitch. Expect does get the taunt down as Perks does take out Wolf on the other end, but Bang firing away, looking for Minzy, but here comes Trick back. I think a little too far forward, does go down the Trick now. Bang is dead as well. G2 finding some kills. SK2's aggression will cost them. Peanut turns to 5, but he's dead also.
Homer will definitely leave this game with at least one replay he wants to draw his charge's attention to. Very sloppy play, given that Galio clearly was not going to be grouping in. G2's actually going to stop Baron.
Yeah, it's do or die for them. It's 20 minutes. They want to do Baron. They just killed 4 people. They're still down 7,000 gold, and there is a very big Galio about to disrupt this.
That is not the teleport I expected, but Sven's actually bottom lane, can't join. The 4v1
G2
right
really
now.
want to try and get it in any way possible, but Hooney is going to disrupt.
We're going to take down Perks. G2 have to pull off Baron, and Hooney with a great TP, despite not joining the fight, does get G2 off Baron.
Still a big mistake there by SKT, over pushing. They've had so much success taking odd-numbered fights when they're this far ahead. Let's watch this one more time. Sven is able to survive the initial onslaught, and that's key.
Yeah, they open up against the Shen ultimate, but they had 2 people coming in and also the Twitch ready for stealth. So you understand the start. Sven is deleting. You're like, okay, SKT have a big gold lead. This is fine. Bang sets up for an engage, but actually gets very low values. It comes out of stealth, starts the ultimate, expects taunt hadn't been used. It's used effectively, and look at how many auto attacks Bang loses out on. He actually puts out relatively little damage in this fight.
Yeah, exactly. Bang was hoping for the amazing flank behind them, but G2 actually pushed up beyond that point. If Bang opens up in a different position in this fight, I feel like SKT actually wins it if he opens up on Perks' Orianna, but he chose an area very close to Shen, didn't expect to still have taunt, and he pays the price.
And it's one of those also little situations where to be a fly on the wall on why Hooney never teleported, because you'd have to imagine he got a call from his team to just take the turret, don't worry about it, we'll get out, or we'll trade up. Either way, a call somewhere along the line seemed to be wrong, even though he did get the bot lane objective.
Things at it again, ulti going to be blocked on Sven. Perks here to try and protect him, too much damage, burns down for the poison, Bang, yet another one.
Well, Snowball looks like when you have the extra items.
Running in again, SKT looking for a tower dive, actually. Perks no flash, does shock over on the Faker. Time going to miss, but Peanut's going to run for it. Ragnarok will not be stopped, there's a shutdown.
You're afforded to make mistakes like SK Telecom did 3 minutes ago. When you have an early game like SK Telecom did in this game, they can get away with mistakes. Will they be able to do in the bracket stage? That part is up for debate, but given this early game, they're still going to be comfortably in the league. Almost 10,000 gold.
Absolutely insane here for SKT, and that Bank Twitch again getting aggressive. Sure, it cost him in the last exchange, but SKT's control just serving him so well, and he's a 23-minute Baron.
And I love the vision toggle because, again, you see the pressure that's on because they also have to deal with the fact that Twitch has stealth. There's so many things to respect, and they have so little map control.
And Trick just had to jump away over a further wall while they still don't have vision of this Baron. He's back in, though. Would actually have a chance to steal with that vision.
Oh, not quite there. Trick needs to get back in, but his mind's already down, and now Trick's just caught out of position. Faker almost with the ulti ready to chase SKT. How far do they want to go? Faker, instant shove, takes down Trick, and they get a pick for their trouble after the Baron is banged. Still chasing, wants revenge on Mythy perhaps after the last exchange. No shit around this time. Mythy running back towards his teammates.
And they're going to take this quick trip back to the base and maybe try and prep themselves for a final push. 1-3-1, they have the Galio that can join the other lane if they decide to dive. This size of goal lead at 24 minutes you actually don't often see, so SKT going to try and push this
And
back.
you can't even say words like the outscale word or anything for the side of G2. It is Ken and AD carry. We did scrutinize the comp when they went for the Shen last pick, saying, well, in the mid game it could be oppressive if somehow Shen is massively ahead, if Kennan's massively ahead. But that was literally the only real win condition, barring catastrophic mistakes, that you just aren't really assigned to SKT.
Exactly, and the bot lane Kennen is still about the split push. It's just a different way of trying to get there instead of throwing him in the top lane. And when you fall that far behind in the early and mid game, you just never have the opportunity to set up the split push and never get an advantage in any of the side lanes.
And in general, just the amount of time SKT are out on this map, these are long shifts for these boys. But just putting in overtime and Bank stealthing forward again. He's like, got actually no team behind him, and he's still confident going in, maybe looking for a pick. Actually opens up on a Perks. Faker on the other side hoping they take the bait, not this time.
It was really fun watching Bang's movements because it felt like any two was golden. He was, when they saw the third person roll in, he was like, okay, maybe I'm going to step back. But this is the same Twitch we saw in the grand final, walking up to a Malzahar in a mid lane and being like, well, I'm going to be fine. I got QSS. I'm going to get a double kill. And when you're that far ahead on Twitch, it's why teams have been banning away the Twitch, because map control plus something like this, a hyper carry that can come from stealth, is just the biggest headache ever for G2.
Well, pressure continues. Peanut just slaying people, standing at it. It's not quite going to be enough. Peanut barely into Faker, just nails Bang with a Q. Here's Galio now going to knock up Expect. Appeal for the rest of the team. SKT might turn it back around, knock up onto Expect. He flashes out. G2 still defending, but SKT playing with styles and so much aggression.
Yeah, I mean, Peanut just beast modes right in there onto Sven.
It feels unfair when Peanut's this far ahead just running at your carries. I mean, what can you do? They have a Shen ulti and it's still not even close to enough with Faker there.
It's on the Olaf. They targeted him so hard, and yet he still found comfort on a pick he hadn't played all year. SKT want to finally break the base.
And it's broken. Bottom in, give it a turret down. Bottom in here will follow shortly. G2 running back towards their fountain, hoping something happens. But SKT still complete control. Will maybe end the game before the next Baron spawns.
Yeah, and I mean, Face Your Time, you asked what can G2 do? And I'll say play for late game, but that's the next game. TSM is the late game at this point because they know that their way in, there's still ways into the bracket stage with the victory over TSM.
Ooh,
so.
Flash, my team, alive, no back, flashes forward! I think that's going to cost him his life. Bang! Bit silly, Trickle taken down.
I saw your finger wave there, Pastry Time. We were right there with you. Unnecessary mistake, but again, not going to be consequential. You'd have to imagine the context of the fight. Peanut's 2 levels up on the enemy AD carry. He was up, levels up on the mid laner as well for the majority of this game. Clean up the kill. Peanut gets out.
I am surprised that Sven waited so long to flash. Peanut was going to have to take time to clear onto him. The taunt would still technically be able to reach the Olaf.
Speaking of Olaf, this is the replay, right? Peanut at it again here. Actually, 1v3 running away. Good shockwave there after the Ragnarok wears up. Peanut goes down and says, all right, starting to get a little bit sloppy.
Yeah, they're just having fun, it feels like, at this point, SKT. It's reminding us of SKT versus the Gigabyte Marines first round match where they opted into a death match because they could. You can say, though, that G2 picking up these kills is going to be raising spirits. Just picking up a kill when you're on this stage, when you know that your biggest task is ahead, it is that match against TSM. Picking up kills on the names that you know and love is big for the G2 members because they need any semblance of confidence. But remember, they are 0-3 if you include the 2 games from yesterday in a row, absolutely. And they really need to pick up. It's a must-win game later, so any sort of steady influences from inside the game are welcomed, given that, again, we still aren't really crediting them with a chance to come back 12,000 gold behind.
It definitely depends on the team, the way they can recover from victory and the ways they would preferably lose, right? Because we actually had a pretty big discussion about this. Oh, man. In the catcher pit, and I think there were very varying opinions about, well, you'd actually rather win fast. You really don't want to be winning and then lose because then you're going to be more tilted after the loss. But so much of it will depend on the individual.
If Perks had off there, that would have been sick, but he does instead to Faker. Just dashes forward. I was smelling a play there for Perks, but not a mind reader, and bang. Just playing so far up with this round.
Yeah, they're not playing 3 lanes. Of course, the super minions are pushing in bot. They just want to break the base in a second spot. SKT just want to finally put the icing on the cake, which is the victory in this game.
Exactly. We also have to note a win blocks SKT as the number 1 seed.
Surprise, Peanuts in again. Here's the Galio ultimate to follow through, but that is diving through. Great work on 3 men there. And the ultimate from Zed, I don't think he's going to cut it. Huni still chasing him down. There's a couple dead already. 2 fall for G2 as expect. Is it going to be the next target? Huni to the fountain, gets the taunt back down as well. Faker still kiting forward, just skirting around the fountain laser. Expect flashes back into his own fountain just to not die.
I don't think you've ever heard those words play by play at pastry time, but that's what had to happen. They're waiting for the minion wave. They're looking to finish the game. SKT are in rare form.
Game looking to go down before the next Baron spawn. Got about a minute to do it. Faker finds Buster, leads him off the map. It's the right next to turn skin of full. Faker looks for a second time, doesn't get it onto Mindy, but Peanut and Wolf are doing the business they need to do. Huni zoning them away. The Nexus exposed and SKT dominate G2 to lock in first.
In under 30 minutes with just the 1 Baron spawn, they did even look a little bit sloppy in that victory towards the end, but that's just the expectations SKT has set for themselves and the fans. Now 8-1 in the MSI group stage.
Every other team in the world wishes they could be scrutinized as closely as SK Telecom T1 is. Every team wishes that even in a game that they did not look like losing after about the first 8 to 10 minutes, people will criticize them for over-engaging, for having a bit of fun, for diving in for KDA. But that is SK Telecom T1, a team that has won every international tournament they have competed in ever since Worlds 2015. And they're now locked in as the first team. And whichever team finishes 4th, and there could certainly be a lot of headaches to work out who that is, are going to be very scared about the proposition of a best of 5 against SKT T1.
And like you said, we just have to look at the little things. I mean, to be fair to SKT, it's not just us that have to scrutinize this team so heavily because they are otherwise so good. You know Chrome is going to be in there, especially on that engage towards the top side, saying, what were you guys thinking? But apart from that, they're the best team in the world for a reason. They can afford to make some pretty horrendous mistakes at times, and it just feels like it doesn't matter.
Absolutely. This is actually the first game Huni has played Galio and not been the most damage on his team. So he's been so dominant on that champion. Still another super strong game from him.
We're still finding little things to be hyped about, little things to criticize, because the big things, the big picture's looking damn good for SKT.
Yeah, there's remaining the gold standard of how you play League of Legends. Teams look to them to try and learn, and that's, funnily enough, one of the reasons it's so hard to beat them, because you're not going to do SKT better than SKT.
Well, we'll see what happens here, but for more on SKT's win to secure the number 1 seed, we're going to take back in with Tash and the analysts.
Thank you very much. Pastry time, Papa Smithy. That's exactly right. The picture is looking good. The big picture looks good for SKT as they lock in that first seed, moving towards the knockout stage. For G2, though, in a game that actually, in those opening minutes, looked to be going very well, especially if we put a spotlight on that mid lane, all of it fell apart within that 10 to 15 minute mark, and we saw the classic SKT kind of just stranglehold onto the game and run away with it.
Yeah, 100%. The first 7 minutes, I'll say 8 minutes, 8.5 minutes looked great for G2. You know, you look at the composition, you maybe start theorizing late game, maybe it goes a little bit wonky because of the twitch, but this is kind of where things started to go sideways. Oh,
Yeah,
excuse me, no, this still looks good.
It started out well with Perks getting initial CS lead over Faker, then he forced Faker on a base, and then Faker answered with an immediate ulti. Perks replied, he gets like a jungle attention, he gets Galio ulti here, so it looked like Perks was definitely in this element, and even later in the game he started playing well. But honestly, this was the crucial phase of the game where it turned around.
Yeah, I mean, for G2, it just felt like to me, like their first fight around mid lane when Perk was already way ahead was just not necessary. The SKT bot lane had the shove, was going to respond first, and you know, they didn't need to go for as much of a commitment as they did.
Yeah, and then it just collapses all on mid lane because it makes sense. SKT want to hit them there because they don't have the TP anymore. It was Huni who teleported into that fight into the river, so they don't want to compete with the Shin teleport down bottom, and so they just throw over and over Peanut and Faker time and time again into that mid.
And then we have to talk about what our expectations were coming into the day. G2 was on the books they were going to lose anyways. It's only the manner in which they lost that was important to see maybe how it spells out what's going to happen in the rest of the day. So for me, I'm actually not too fussed with this result because Perks was playing out of his mind. He's going up against Bjergsen later. If you play against TSM, the one man you have to keep down at all times is Bjergsen, and there will be less pressure, hopefully, for Europe, that is, onto the jungle because
今天的比赛对我们意味着就是复仇之战吧，因为输给了越南队，然后就导致国内的观众们就是很失望。就是今天的话，我觉得我们一定要先把越南队给拿下，然后 SKT 的话，我不希望跟他5-5开，就是他们要么他们爆炸，要么我们爆炸，就是我要跟他们打个你死我活吧。
Welcome back to our continuing coverage of MSI 2017 on stage. Our team WE and the Gigabyte Maroons, who are still looking for a spot in next week's bracket with a win. Gigabyte Maroons secure at least a tiebreaker for 4th place, and WE can lock down 2nd if they win here and avoid SKT.
That's kind of a win in itself, given the SKT that we saw earlier today. WE, again, confident to predict them, but then you remember the Gigabyte Marines ran over this team, and they're going to be wanting to recreate the early game that allowed that big advantage.
Yeah, and Team WE felt quite embarrassed after that one. They do not want to lose this team again, but that's the thing. Gigabyte Marines has been running over a lot of people in the early games. It's just a matter of whether you've been able to come back in the late game. Can WE control them in the early game, I think, will be the big question for this match.
Well, looking for some revenge here. Let's check out the squads lining up on the wrist. First off, it is representing the LPL, it's Team WE. Top lane at 957, jungle, Condi, mid lane, Xie, bot lane, Mystic, support Van, and Coach Om.
And on the red side from the GPL, it is the aforementioned Gigabyte Marines. We have Stark in the top lane. Will he draw a Gragas and a Kenaban is the question. Levi in the jungle, Optimus in mid lane, Slay the AD carry, and Archie the support.
It does feel like the water cooler moment with this team is the pick ban. It feels like everyone has 3 champions you ban against Gigabyte Marines to not have the same effect that they've had on basically every team. And I imagine there'll be some disagreement about it. Feels like the Gragas certainly in there. There's Ziggs, and it's kind of, is it Lulu? Is it Kennen? There's a lot of different arguments, and it's so fun to see teams, come up with their own concoction of how to stop Gigabyte Marines from playing their own game, and Gigabyte Marines one-up that, have an extra champion, and still play the same style.
Yeah, because Gigabyte Marines' meta has been a little bit different than others, but it's not like they only play carrier, assassin, mid laners. They've played Lulu mid and been able to win a game. I think the bans that at least you and I have settled on, Papa Smithy, that we'd like WE to have is Gragas, Kennen, and Ziggs, because those are the 3 more unique champions for their style.
Also, because Team WE are on blue side, if you get the Lulu with those 3 bans, you can take it away anyway. So completely agree, Jat. As long as the Lulu doesn't fall in the hands of Gigabyte Marines as well, it's win-win.
Well, we've just got off the longest game of MSI 2017. Let's see if this one's a little more fast-paced. I at least expect that on the Marine side, as there's first ban Ziggs for WE. Gigabyte Marines taking their time with this one, going to ban Kled away from 957.
Yeah, the other side of the coin, the Gigabyte Marines bans against WE are a little more interesting. I feel like WE have been surprisingly most impressive in the early game with the sort of pick comps that we saw in our previous game, the Ashe, Lee Sin, Syndra kind of comps, where they've kind of looked strong, just finding priority through their mid lane. And Xie, a massive performance on the LeBlanc yesterday as well, so that's another one to think about.
Yeah, Xie has quietly been having a large impact in the mid and late game for these games, doing a bunch of damage in all those late game team fights. Also interesting, they're just taking the pocket picks away from Team WE. They pull out the Kog'Maw even when they don't have protection compositions, and they blind pick the Kled. So really targeted bans on both sides.
No one's playing around with those Karma or Lulu bans so far, so tracking them has sort of been a narrative of its own at MSI 2017. No sign of the Gragas ban either. It's 1957 could play. Or ban it away.
So that's going to leave Lulu or Karma or both, depending on what Gigabyte Marines want to do. I have genius analysts though.
Smartest analyst in the room.
I feel like they should ban neither of those champions. And then the question is, how do they want to target the remaining picks? If they want to get rid of Twitch as far as the hyper carry potential for Mystic, since they will be carrying with the Shielder, is one option, but they don't have too many great ways here to ban, so they just ban Ashe.
And it does feel like most people are on either the Twitch side of the coin or the Kog'Maw. And for Mystic, I definitely cement his Kog'Maw as the better of the 2 picks. So they're going to play with fire, potentially still see the Twitch come through. And speaking of first picks though, will it be, to me it's the Lulu, because Optimus has shown already that he'll play Lulu mid, so I see the priority of that pick over what the Gigabyte Marines are putting out, and for now at least it seems like Team WE agrees.
Oh, for now, and then 2 seconds later.
Interesting.
Here's the mind game. They're daring Gigabyte Marines to show their hand with the Karma or Lulu mid right away.
Or both.
Try and comp around that, because that's the thing. If they pick Lulu Karma here, they deny Team WE their support, and then Ben would probably play something like Malzahor or Bard, as Kreflo likes to keep bringing up.
And they certainly won't pick both, which certainly some teams would consider, and the priority on the Galio has gone way up. Now he can sort of maybe live through the Fizz matchups, but of course the flex pick nature of the WE first peak Fizz, which again, we knew it was going to be up there for the flex picks, but this is very early.
Yeah, I mean, they're flexing on each other, because the Galio and the Lulu can also go into a number of different lanes.
Well, it looks like we're going to settle on an AD carry first as Caitlyn for Mystic, so kind of in a very similar vein to the likes of Kog'Maw, and even Ashe in some ways, so Mystic going to kind of stick to his personal preferences here. I can't see a world where WE don't pick Karma here, but it'll be very interesting to see what they want to select. But I think kind of like maybe they're just thinking through things and saying, you know what, let's make sure we have everything planned for the next phase.
But the question is, are you worried
I'm wrong.
if Lulu Karma comes through from Gigabyte Marines? Because they don't play through Slay in that manner, and you almost think that it's going to be playing through Levi on maybe a more aggressive dueling jungler than necessarily anything. Now, they do take away the Karma anyway.
Yeah, but you were also seeing what was going through their head right there. They thought, if we don't pick a jungler here, then we're going to get pinched, because the Lee Sin is almost certainly getting banned in the next phase away from Condi, and Levi gets his pick of the litter right here. So The Caitlyn ban is the one thing that's at least a little confusing to me, because they could have just picked a jungler and support there and still had the flexibility of Fizz, but that just shows how much they wanted Caitlyn for Mystic, and they're really going to be trying to shove that bottom lane in early.
And a point that's kind of been overlooked, I think, because Levi has had so many great games. 3 match wins for Gigabyte Marines in group stages. All 3 of those games on Kha'Zix, surprisingly. It hasn't been the Graves that we've seen great mechanics from. Those are actually the games where Gigabyte Marines have petered out, and it's been the Kha'Zix that's actually held the 100% win rate. So very interesting to see, taking the Graves in this spot. It's a denial pick from Condi and Source. They also do double ban jungle, but it's not the Kha'Zix that can line up with the Galio and the Lulu and go very deep into the backline.
Yeah, I always wonder if Condi's got an Ivern prepped in his back pocket. Not something he's played much of, but it's definitely a powerful jungler that is still on the board.
Peanut played his first game of Ivern at this tournament, so anything's possible. Condi hasn't played it either, so it's not respected as part of a champion pool, but you could certainly see it given where the pick ban is going. WE could recreate something like G2's comp, where they were running the mid lane Fizz that time, but that's still to be decided where the Fizz is going.
Looks like Marines are pushed pretty far down on the 80 carries though, because 2 were banned by WE in phase number 2. Seen some Jhin here and there, but that is going to be the pick from Marines. It's not a super meta 80 carry, but I think at this spot, fine.
Yeah, when you're pushed down your tier list of marksmen, especially with the Ziggs being banned already, it does make sense. They're
like
hovering it. They've done a lot of hovers that are logical and then switched off at the last second this draft, so they're trolling us. There it is, locked in.
Oh, look at it, Condi! Gonna make an appearance on Ivern. This is champion that does not suit his playstyle, but he's saying, you know what, I think my team needs this, I'm gonna pick it. I'm going to confirm, maybe support Karma here as well as Shie's last pick. His Tilly has been very impressive, and they lock it in.
Yeah, and as much as this is a protection comp because of the 2 shielders, it's absolutely a shoving comp that just tries to kill turrets. The Talia wants to unlock the mid lane and roam around, and the Ivern is, I feel like, the best jungler for actually setting up sieges in lanes that they can then outnumber the opponent with the Talia.
This might be one of the first games where Gigabyte Marines won't have those pushing lanes that we know. It feels there's a lot of pressure on the side of Team WE, so pushing in and then roaming with something like the Weave as well is an availability. Gigabyte Marines do have access to Syndra as a last pick, so can potentially just try to delete Xie from the laning phase equation and get power there. But it's not Ziggs Lulu bot lane, it is the Jhin who very frequently, and certainly against this lane, will be pushed in. And if the Fizz has kill pressure and Talia starts to shove, WE do have some interesting options as well.
Yeah, this is going to be a fascinating game as far as whether or not WE can get an early advantage or whether or not Gigabyte Marines can force the pace of game onto Team WE. When we hear Frost Curran describe this matchup, she was expecting Team WE to be totally fine with it because Team WE is totally used to teams just throwing themselves recklessly towards them in the LPL, and they do fine, yet they definitely weren't fine in their first matchup here at the MSI group stage.
No, certainly not. If we're looking for WE to get things done early, there is really only one vessel that can be carried through. It is Condi, and he's on Ivern. But I'm just so curious to see, can he get aggressive? Because yes, Ivern, good counter jungler, strong farmer. We have a lot of free time while you're waiting for your camps. And if Condi wants to go nuts and try and visit lanes over and over and over again, he can. I just don't know if it's the best thing to do on Ivern.
And even something as simple as Condi's pathing, because we've certainly seen Peanut kind of boggle minds with his early pathing on the Ivern, and Svenskeren go for a different tact in his game. Now we get to see another person with a new viewpoint on Ivern in another region where Ivern has been much lower priority than some of the LCS regions.
Exactly, and Team WE also preparing for the long game right here. They have the bracket stage already secured. Yes, they want to secure the top 2 seed with the win here, knowing they have SKT at the end of the day, but they have the freedom to experiment and deviate from the norm a little bit more than Gigabyte Marines do.
Well, we'll see what happens here. Moving out to the Rift as Condi skipping along, and Ivern even pops up the flare, so he's feeling good here for the WE's first game of the day.
Marines once again going for a bot lane carry who doesn't want to hard commit, doesn't really talk about positioning so much. It's much more of that long range artillery. Not quite the Ziggs, but very much going to be Jhin out of the fight, but it's certainly not these double dive-in assassin comps with a Galio. It's a very different structure of Galio comp for Gigabyte Marines.
They very much have to play, you'd think, more standard, sit back and siege and kind of have that disengaged game. Not a great way of starting fights. You have maybe Slay opening up with an ultimate and then Hopefully Stark gets a flank TP, not the same type of reliability as you mentioned.
And that's one of those weird situations where did you win the draft because you forced Gigabyte Marines to go more standard and thus not go to their gameplay that they've played basically every time? Or will Gigabyte Marines show us a new dimension of their play and answer some of the critics who say, if you're not going one way aggressively, then you're not the same team?
Yeah, based on on my subjective opinion, I think Team WE did win this draft because Gigabyte Marines didn't get their primary choices. They don't necessarily have as many tools as we're used to in forcing fights, and Team WE also has the shoving lane, so that's so many things going in your favor.
Great early vision though from Gigabyte Marines, making sure they track this Ivern early. WE snuck 3 people into the bottom lane, which is a little funky. Level 1 not quite working out for them. Levi though on the blue buff, gonna start that one off. Optimus and Archie actually taking Raptors out. We're at it again. It's time for the Gigabyte Marines patented lane swap.
Well, that's one way to get out of what is a Terra laning phase for Lulu and Jin, but again, we've seen this so many times now.
Yeah, but I have to point out Ivern right now for Condi. He did not have intel at level 1. He's trying to do a steal. He's going to see that it is not to be, and that's going to slow down his jungle path a lot. Not to mention,
so much damage. Last shot coming in. MSI ignited there. First blood again for Gigabyte Marines.
He didn't skill E. He skilled too early at W.
How do you not prep for a lane swap against the Gigabyte Marines? Team WE prepped their pick and bans beautifully and then forgot about it during the game. This is the 4th game Gigabyte Marines have lane swapped, and not only does he not expect it, he skilled a spell before he saw an opponent, something you should never do in a solo lane.
But think about all the factors together, Jack. Remember, we saw at level 1, they went bot lane, they had no information at all. We could see from the Ivern pathing that they had no read on what was happening, and it's just all along the line, not thinking about the lane swap that, again, has been their dominant strategy so far.
And we talk about early games. Somehow, Gigabyte Marines find a way. Not only do they get that first blood up to the top side, but also Condi's Ivern jungle path is ruined. He did a blind invade into the blue buff and didn't find a blue buff there. And that top lane is going to get interesting because 957 just came back lane. He still doesn't have
he's level 1. They're actually going to tower dive him here. Slade needs to come more bullets. Ignite is down. That's not going to be enough. Flash from Slade, and he missed.
He autoed and tried to flash away with his 4th shot, but hit a minion. And now he has level 2, so he's got his E. They can't dive this again safely.
Either it was an attack move or just a misclick, but really big mistake for Gigabyte Marines.
There's playable tricks of a 957, gonna run them off this turret and try and get some CS. Still hurts though.
Watch
W's
Ivern.
Gonna land.
Ivern's here.
Big wraparound, but actually Optimus is up here as well. There's Talia. Shot not gonna miss, but Archie takes down 957 and Slade trying to get out from under the turret.
The pace that Gigabyte Marines are forcing onto Team W right now, and the inability to respond to the lane swap, because we got to see lane swaps reach a very polished point about a year ago, and you can see that polish is completely gone for Team WE. They are not over pushing the bottom side turret. They're trying a little bit, but they've just given up 2 kills under the turret.
I mean, teams know how to play in standard lanes right now, just like how 6 months ago, 9 months ago, teams knew how to play lane swaps, and it's just comical that things keep going so well for the Gigabyte Marines. This time Shia and also the Ivern was there to try and answer, but the turnaround damage comes. Shia has to back away.
We're still going. Condi not called by Optimus. Stark actually TP'd down. That's a very respectful flash for Condi, but I don't know what he was doing there.
Yeah, that was also one of the most Gigabyte Marines things they could do. They had a Galio on the bottom lane that can wave clear and keep that turret alive, and they teleport him to the mid lane river at level 3, so they're probably going to lose this turret pretty shortly, or at least a lot of damage onto it.
I mean, is this just the 5-day schedule of the group stages of MSI? Because there's going to be 4 days of downtime, but you would have said the same thing when we were prepping for TSM versus Gigabyte Marines. Go back, watch the VODs, you'll learn. They didn't really feel like they did that. They lost that first match, and now we're here seeing that Gigabyte Marines just keep returning to a strategy that they've done day in, day out, and teams still cannot be this surprised at the highest level and have basically no idea of what's happened.
Exactly. The mind struggles to find explanations a little bit here, because clearly Gigabyte Marines did prep for this team. They had the target bans that everyone was calling for, and it's happened so many times. You watch the other teams compete and you see a lane swap. What does your team talk about? Oh yeah, we haven't seen that in a while. Let's discuss what we would do in this situation to prevent this from beating us. Obviously, not very much has happened from that. 957 still level 5 over Stark's level 4, but it's the 2 deaths and the gold lead early on for Gigabyte Marines.
Trading back and forth. We've actually swapped back to 2v2, but Jin's got a An early kill and an assist for a quick serrated Dirk here, so certainly combat advantage looking good, although Karma equalizing that a bit with a nice poke there from Ben. I mean, I feel like WE did some prep of their own. That three-man invade down to the bottom lane looks pretty rehearsed. They're expecting a very specific thing to happen, but getting no vision feels a little weird against Gigabyte Marines, and they got punished. Only not much of a gold lead at all, but Gigabyte Marines again. Just how many times are we going to say, they won't do it again?
Yeah, and I will say the Gigabyte Marines did give away a lot of the advantage they suffered early with that teleport into the top lane river. Stark gave up an XP advantage over to 957. Now 957 is actually going to be fine in that lane despite suffering 2 early casualties. And Mystic will have the CS lead over Slay since they spent so much time diving. So they did create a lot of space in which to play with, and they gave some of it back with that teleport.
Really interested to see how the Fizz versus Galio matchup will continue to track with sort of even item timings or maybe even 957. I think as item spikes first feels like a matchup we might see a lot moving forward today and in the bracket stage, and Spin 1 hasn't necessarily been visited too far this tournament.
See, finally 1v1, even on experience. 957 with his Ignite ready. Stark though with his flash, and no TPs anyway, because 957 did want to get back to that lane pretty quickly. Blue though over to Optimus, looks good there. Mid lane, slightly behind the CS, but she doing exactly what he wanted to do here, just power pushing this lane.
And in all the madness, nice control ward on the right side, and so much vision for WE down the bot side river with the pushing lane we talked about. Now that we're finally getting 2v2 is the sort of comfort that you expected come draft phase. There was that big curveball of the first 4 to 5 minutes, but now bot lane in a great spot.
Condi here actually in top lane, good! Ulti and back flash from Stark. Condi looking in there, Talia's roamed up as well. Now F7, a well-earned kill.
Yeah, and that was the experience advantage paying off right there. He hits level 6 first, doesn't even need to burn his Ignite. They brought a lot in case Stark was able to dodge some of that damage. And I also liked how Mystic and Ben temporarily backed off from the bottom lane, because when they roamed up, they saw Raptors were still alive, which then they could intuit that Levi was probably on the bottom side of the map. And once again, that's why they're recalling here, because there is so much chance of them getting doped.
WE, they've had a couple of games where the first 5 to 8 minutes, I think back to the game against G2 yesterday, our opening game of the day, where they've gone even or made some mistakes early, but it feels like 8 to 20. They make a lot of smart decisions when they have tools to try and execute in the early game. We were talking about pushing and roaming. We've seen that from Xia a couple of times already. So far, it's like their macro play, again, with the big caveat of not expecting the lane swap at all, has been the WE we expected coming into this game.
Well, bottom lane actually pretty big lead. Also Mystic and Ben smartly recalling, but 20 CS and counting despite the early gold onto Slay, who's gone very swiftness boots for whatever reason. You can see the gold itself is actually even, but Mystic, if this is how the lane's going to go, he will grow an organic lead pretty quickly, actually.
Yeah, I agree. The swiftness boots on Jhin was relatively common when Jhin was meta. A lot of it has to do with having the 4th shot and being able to get it onto an opponent. Because when people see you with that, they like to back off, and when you have the small movement speed advantage on them, you more than likely get it off. Or you just use flat.
We'll see. Mystic just again shooting minions down. Double warlords actually on both these ADs. Jhin, I think very common to take that Keystone now. Caitlyn, I think Jury might still be up, but Mystic, I know he does love this Keystone quite a lot. Does use it on the likes of combo, which we saw yesterday.
Death by Grass, not a priority anymore.
Bad days.
AD nerfs. Archie takes a lot of damage.
Actually, out of poly mode now, so Mystic might look for something. Good flash for Lulu, ace in the hole ready, but Slayer should be able to block that. Might just use it for poke this turret again. About 40% health now, so the lead's growing in CS, but also this turret's taking a lot of hurt.
I've been convinced with some of the 2v2 TVT laning for Slay and Archie yesterday. Of course, Slay dying to Ignite after he flashed away. It's not the Ziggs, it's not this other type of laning phase, and it's not the lane swap either. And then just a pure 2v2. I don't know if that flash is necessary much.
Yeah, and they're just getting destroyed at this phase in the laning. And WE has recovered from the chaos of the early game, and now they're executing their game plan. You got to see the dive top lane, you get to see the strong ward control from the Ivern while they shove up, and actually the perfect timing on the rotation from the Ivern. The next wave, they can just walk in, throw a brush in front of the turret and take it.
Well, Levi's decided that a few minutes have passed and no one has died, so he's going to try and make something happen here in the top lane. Great ward in the brush, so he's going to spot it. Well, maybe a dive's getting started in. FF7, pretty tricky to kill.
Yeah, and this is about playing smart as well. 957 wasn't going aggressive in that lane while his jungle was on the other side of the map. So Team WE, aside from the tomfoolery that got pulled early on in the game, is recovering quite well.
got drawn into the madness, it felt like a little bit, but have restabilized here, and Saka and Levi are gonna hang around, but no cannon creep in. Up F7 alone, but Condi sprinting up towards topside to try and help him out.
Good mobility, could ult for wave clear, but it's trusting that Condi will be there at the right time. Speaking of ult, though.
Yeah, Talia. Already onto Stark. Damage is huge from the Fizz, and there's Sheer to try and finish off the kill. 957 gets credit once more. Now Levi falls to blood. Optimus is here. Look at 957, but it's not quite enough damage. Levi over the collateral damage. He's going to finish it off, and Archie's here as well, because why not? Ben also rowing up for the team, and now Mystic's thinking about joining as well.
1-for-1, Jin still in the bot lane, won't be responding. Caitlyn actually rotating, probably going to cancel going top lane, going to go to the mid, so 80 carries trade farm, and just a 1-for-1 across the map for WE and Gigabyte Marines.
Yeah, and I like the beginning of this play, having the Talia to come in and get the quick execution onto Stark, but then they pushed pretty far forward and didn't necessarily track Optimus with his Ghost, get a trade kill back almost immediately. Cute little thing at the end of this, watch Optimus kidnap Daisy as he walks towards it. You can do this as Syndra and just very easily get the 50 gold if you want by throwing it on the ground.
Daisy is going to be very confused at the end of that one, moving about 4,000 units in that interaction.
Well, you can see Mystic actually did manage to move away from his potential roam top and go mid. I think it's actually where he wants to sit anyway. Already taken the tower. Mystic pretty strong early on. Double dagger and a load of early AD is nice as Candy, no, Archie moves around it. It's actually can't take it anyway because Condi stole away the blue. See who managed to move in there. Maybe Mystic decides to take it, and you can see Shie already moving in towards top lane. Optimus is there, at least briefly. It looks like the full rotation is in effect now for WE.
Exactly. Keep moving that Caitlyn around the map and try and get turrets down. Executing this very quickly. They can even move them up to the top lane because it's all about Shie being able to turn the tides on any of those lanes they're trying to push.
A little flash there from Ben, making sure he stays safe. Good combo started there by Gigabyte. Trying to get the GW snap on the slow land again. There's the root. Optimus flashes out of the way, but Esnol's going to continue. Damage is good. She flashes over, and there's the shove. Ben actually. Credit for the kills. Now Stark going to try and turn it back around. Flash Taunt fires through, but Condi now knocked up with a Justice one. Damage still there, but Condi has so many shields. A 957 going to come in and try and win this handily. Oh, WE finds Slay with the fish. Levi though still fighting on the other side. Gigabyte Marine's a little too low. Slay still fighting up, but she actually dies in the taunt start. He's going to go down on the other side as Mystic gets credit for those kills. Huge double empower. Mystic over the wall. Look at her, just clean it all up. Q's not going to find Levi though, and Slay now going to try and snipe one down. 957 takes a couple hits, gets out of the way. Good little trickster, and Ben takes the last shot.
Yeah, and when you count the corpses at the end of it, it's actually very close, even though it looked like Gigabyte Marines were caught completely off guard. Slay's just swift just wants it.
Condi says no! 957 threatens, and now Daisy's out for the 4v2. They get 5 as Mystic also putting pot shots in. Slay really wanted to take somebody down. The aggressiveness still there in the blood of Gigabyte Marines.
Execution on both teams, I think, was a little bit off there. A lot of over-aggression, then pull back. Only a 1-for-1, I believe, over the course of all of it, but it was such an extended fight, there may have been another kill snuck in there. The result, though, will just return to normal, which has been WE slowly chipping down this mid lane outer turret as we do get a replay.
Yeah, and Team WE are running a low damage team composition with heavy shields that has a lot of late game scaling, and then damage reduction comes in for Galio, and he's a very tanky dude after he has his taunt on. Damage reduction, not to mention Lulu, so that's one of the reasons the fight goes on for so long. With that being said, Team WE have the numbers advantage, so they want to continue on to Gigabyte Marine.
It's a big numbers advantage because one is already dead and Levi's kind of dueling with Mystic and then woefully out of position. So we return to the fight. There's the answering first goal, so it is a delayed 2-for-1. The WE, given that Syndra had already died right at the start.
Yeah, and Mystic wanted so much more after the Empowered Karma Q landed, but wasn't quite able to get any crits down the stretch. Got an Infinity Edge now, though, to help that case.
Well, also, you can see it in the replay, Mid-Turret did go down to WE, so continuing to use this strong Caitlyn. Infinity Edge already done for Mystic, working on a Zeal pretty quickly, and does have pretty efficient early items here. I mean, Gigabyte Marines, for all the fighting they're doing, and as close as a lot of these exchanges are, if they just keep losing turrets, it's kind of not going to matter.
Yeah, the game has gone like we expected with the pushing lanes and actually being able to rotate. It's been clean from WE, again, in spite of an early game that perhaps can be adjusted with just a single VOD review and a single team discussion. Otherwise, it's been the WE that was expected to head to the Rift the first time these two teams met, and certainly not the Gigabyte Marines rolling over WE in the same fashion as the first round off.
Yeah, and I think the Ocean Drake is really good for Team WE right now because they have such good disengage and very good shielding on that team. As long as they don't actually die, their ability to stick around and continue to siege turrets is going to be really hard with Gigabyte Marines to keep up with, since they have such low amounts of good initiation.
957 in a spot of bother, but again, playing safe. Nice ward. Swept away by Gigabyte Marines, but does keep 957 safe. Mystic still mid lane here. Condi looking for a root caller, doesn't get it. Nice Ghostblade pop for Slay for the extra movement speed. You can see Shie down bottom with his level 2 ultimate, so WE trying to spread this map around. Gigabyte did get a tower thanks to Optimus as the root caller hits Stark, so only 2 for 1 now in turrets in favor.
And WE are playing around their strong side. They had littered control wards on the bot side of the map, whereas all the vision of Gigabyte Marines was around the Fizz, and 957 so far has had great top lane sense to back away whenever his team have been going on these aggressive missions on the other side of the map, and allows Shie to just free push and basically get them pressure around the enemy blue, which probably is the next objective they're looking at, and just have Galio there accountable for wave clear.
Well, looks like Shie and WE do have quite a bit of gold to spend at this point. They're going to cut somebody off. Stark can't get him off the wall. Rides in, looks for Archie, but he zips over the other side. Slay gonna dodge the seismic shot. No dice on that play.
Yeah, slim margins right there. Being able to make it on the other side of the wall. Still would have had flash if you're Archie and he gets caught away. Appreciate the attempt by Stark to knock him off the Weaver's wall, but play doesn't quite materialize there for Team WE.
Something's happening every time. They get the control, they steal away the blue buff. No Drake spawning for a couple of minutes. That was the only objective. They were prepping all these control wards to claim, apart from Shie picking up farm. They back away, they reset. So far, they're moving with their vision line, which is exactly what you want to see from a contending team at MSI.
Great timing on the recalls from Shie as Condi steals away the blue, and he gets the candy right as he goes back. Shie, though, now with the Leandro's Torment finish, didn't have it for that last little roam attempt, but only going to get stronger as things continue. And Mystic parked in mid lane, just taking the farm as it just calmly sweeps towards him.
Yeah, and there's a good scaling component on Team WE as well, so they're very much a turret kill team, but that's in tandem with their scaling. They're doing a pretty good job of it so far.
I think we've seen like a lot of this style combo. We saw it yesterday with the, I think, Kled Fizz. It was definitely Kled plus Assassin with a Cogmore with not too much protection. So WE, they are coming with this kind of combo protection as Mystic. Got caught up by Levi. Condi flash shield to try and protect him, but Ben caught out as well. Galiotti coming in, and Levi back over the wall with the quick drop, and Archie already so low. Mystic snipes him barely with an auto attack, and now 957 dives to the back and takes down Optimus Daisy. So troublesome for the rest of the team. I mean, Levi and Sagan is busy fighting him, and now Shie's going to try and pick one up. Sharp again going to miss, but the damage is there. 957 dives back in, stuck. Justice punches out for the dash. Still got to be careful. Slay with a good amount of damage to Stark. Lines up the taunt, has flash but doesn't commit. There's a flash out topside for Levi getting out, but 2 kills there for Waterley despite the start.
And we mentioned how Gigabyte Marines have such a hard time starting fights against this sieging team. Levi is trying to be so creative. He waited in that brush for what felt like 30 seconds, and for the fight to still not go over to Gigabyte Marines, it's got to be quite disheartening.
And that's why we're complimenting WE for playing with their vision line, for moving their wards and playing around it, because that never really happens against the Gigabyte Marines, because they blitz you early, and then the map is in disarray and their assassin play works. That's been their game plan time and time again. Not many teams have had a consistent ward line and played around it, and that's why Gigabyte Marines have to make low percentage plays just to make things happen.
Team WE want to go into Talia.
A little risky, perhaps. Levi already started out. Archie going to get trapped in, but Stark's here as well. 957. Polymorph taking a little too much damage. Great double throw for Stark to continue the CC chain. W there snares up 957, but Mystic just too much. Takes out Levi. Taro not going to last too much longer, but Slay keeping them out.
Slay so close to getting a lot of these last hits, but unable to finish it off. There's still Optimus down in the bottom lane, so that's why WE was so confident trying to go for that play.
Continuing, WE going to stick around for just a wave, actually. Maybe a bit more damage. Mystic feeling it. Ocean Drake regen starting to kick in.
Yeah, Ocean Drake, every time they're out of combat for 5 seconds with champions, and they will still have the shield when Gigabyte Marines try and re-engage.
Yeah, the maximum that can be here is 3 from the side of Gigabyte Marines, given that Syndra is bot and Levi was dead, so over time, they will use their range to take down this turret. So percentage play from WE, and
oh, great shot on the Archie, huge amount of burn.
Kills too.
Growth, Recall down, Archie almost getting sniped up and stuck. Also pretty low. Slay gonna try and trick them there as a redemption goes down to reset it all. Syndra a little late to this one if he wants to make it. Levi coming up for double. WE take the turret, look for a kill, but back off.
have all 5 members of Gigabyte Marine standing in front of you while you poke down their turret, you've got the game controlled, and that's what not many teams have been able to. This is Gigabyte Marines making such a low percentage play, capping a brush for 30 seconds, because so far the game has been controlled after that early craziness. The fight, it could only go the way of WE from the early gold advantage.
Yeah, Levi got 75% of Mystic's health before Team W was able to retaliate, and retaliate they did is the thing, so it's really going to be hard. They need to find more ways to burst Mystic as he gets stronger and stronger.
I mean, Mystic is accelerating very quickly in this game. 3-0-1 on kills. A second zeal already built up with Hurricane and IE done. Plus the tier 2 boots. I mean, he's had some good shots here and there. His ganks haven't been that successful. He's not sitting on that much gold, and 957's actually built very defensively to start this game off. So it's kind of all on Mystic here to get things done in the mid game, and he is making it work.
And he's super fed. 3-0-1 with 10 CS per minute, on top of having some of the best support you could ask for from the Karma and the Ivern. I mean, Team W is absolutely set up for success. They're playing their draft, and you couldn't really ask for more out of your AD carry early on in the game.
Yeah, the battle between the burst and the shielding is being handedly won by the shielding. One of the reasons why we expected the shielding meta to come through is fighters in the top lane and shields being so powerful, there isn't necessarily the backline dive, the backline threat to damage through shields, and when the shields are ahead and also the DPS is ahead, there's very little options for Gigabyte Marines apart from control wards and getting a single pick.
And the only thing that I would potentially question about picking Ivern in this game is whether or not it was worth it, because the fact that a lot of people were questioning whether Ivern was in Condi's champion pool, you would want to surprise someone with a practiced Ivern strategy in a meaningful game. Wait until they play SKT again and try and get that Ivern off, but at the same time, they still want to make sure they're top 2 and they still want to have a good shot.
And that's the thing, is what if I told you that you could play Ivern and not have to play SK Telecom till the grand final? Was that a trade worth making? Because of course the single victory here does cement them second place, and thus eludes the tournament favorites for the longest time.
Well, you can see WE with a solid lead here at 23 minutes, about 4K up or so, and a lot of that's in Mystic's pockets right now. 2,500 gold ahead of Slay, which is a lot. It's only ticking up further. Infernal Drake was picked up by them. The next one's an Infernal, in case the cadence of the game was a little difficult for WE to understand. They can now kind of ramp up as the Drakes allow them. And again, splitting across the map, making sure Mystic always has the safe farm, and his turrets, or Gigabyte Marines, or both, are looking to fall pretty quickly.
Trying to rush onto this mid lane inner turret as well. No defense here from Gigabyte Marines.
River fight, but a good shot back in onto Slay. Mystic does dish out damage. There's Stark though. Get a 3-man top. Mystic throws so many shields to hide in. Little low. Oh, Levi almost snaps with the ulti, but still enough healing. The fish out there for defense. The turret already dead. And Shea looking for something here as well with the wall, perhaps.
Mystic was tanking the turret. Gigabyte Marines is super sad right now because they threw everything and the kitchen sink at Mystic, still lost their turret.
Yeah, the kitchen sink's not good enough at the moment, Jet. There's nothing that right now can take down Mystic. The item timings are not there. The standard color points like Caitlyn falling off in the mid game are not relevant when you're this far ahead of your opposing number, and of course a lot of Jin's itemization has been nerfed over the course of the spring season, so WE close to being able to smother Gigabyte Marines out of the game, but something like a Baron could certainly be a variable to throw a wrench in the works.
Yeah, but aside from the lane swap, it does feel like Team W has been ready for everything the Marines throw at them. They keep Ben back to ward against the Baron sneak, and now they're moving towards mid lane. They might try and fight this. 957's got a teleport available. They instead take the passive play.
Again, and that's been a lot of how W have played this game, I feel like. Even in the item builds, you look at how tanky 957 is early, how selflessly GA is built, because he doesn't have really any MR against the Syndra apart from the Merc Tread. Everything's kind of coming together to make sure Mystic could have a game that looks this good. And to his credit, he's got it now. 3 items finished at the RFC done. Mystic is set up to hard carry this game.
And I think it's worth tracking that 957 has had kill pressure, or at least lane pressure, on someone with superior wave clear with just a Sheen. He's been able to go tanky because he doesn't need the Trinity Force to have what he needs. What he needs not necessarily solo kill pressure, it's the doubt, it's the positioning on the Galio, and that part has been a big success. Plus he's tanky enough to team fight and tussle in the backline.
Alright, not so much on that play for GA. Blast goes over, good stuff for Optimus, but TP down for Gigabyte Marines will cancel there for Stark.
It was Shie who hit the blast cone over. It wasn't a teammate troll, right? So he only has himself to blame.
Well, oopsie on that one. Gonna flash back over, so I won't have it for the next engagement, but settle things down here for WE. They are at least doing a nice job wresting control of this side of the map. That's where they want to be. Drake's on up for a few minutes, and Baron control, especially with the Caitlyn looking this big. Enough damage deals to try and get it down as Conti caught again. Shield's going to keep him safe. Lock it burn, but Redemption's still up, and of course Lulu's got her ulti. You're going to get through a lot here for Gigabyte Marines to try and take somebody down.
Now you don't have to respect the Syndra burst because Unleashed Power was used to start things
Watch
up.
this
Here.
again. Condi, no! Traitor. At least he shielded him after the fact.
Look at him, he's like, ah, man, that was a mistake. Alright, fight's on though. Gigabyte Marines still running back towards their turret. Mystic snared up. Not too bothered. It looks like a siege is the option here for WE. Gigabyte Marines do not have their teleport for their top laner at 957, putting so much pressure at bottom and mid lane.
1 point there. Galio will rotate over, trying to make sure that heroic entrance is a possibility, but 957 grouping with his team, so wants to hold on to that teleport. All the other resources, though, will go the way of Team WE in the jungle of the Gigabyte Marines.
Yeah, and they can still continue to set up these sieges. They're just being diligent about getting the vision control within the jungle and hitting those item power spikes with the Rylai's being completed on Xie as well. So no need for them to force something too heavily, and they also don't have the ability to force too hard. They need to be careful about the way they set up, get their push on the turret, take it down.
Look, very controlled here. Good little wall there as well to cut off a couple members there from Gigabyte Marines. Tower going to go down, Brush goes in. Part of why it's so frustrating to play against Talia, Ivern, Caitlyn.
Artificial terrain of multiple types makes your job and your chances of making what is a low percentage engage even lower. So in the end, the Gigabyte Marines predictably back away, unable to claim anything. Another objective adds the stats of WE, and while it may not be a game-winning gold lead, it does definitely feel like 6,000 gold, and just where this game is at suits WE to a T.
Even Last Whisper completed 27 minutes in for Mystic. That means Stark will not have the greatest of frontline presence. Only thing that would make Mystic stronger is if he had gone with the Fervor instead of the Warlord's Bloodlust for the damage, since he has so many shields, but still has the extra sustain and healing from Warlords. And now, since they have some decent wards in the top side, they can just wait on Xie's ultimate cooldown from Talia and do the same thing with a second tier turret in the bottom side.
Going to help with their game time, but it is the sort of methodical play that's got them back into a game where they certainly misscouted at level 1. So the methodical play is allowing them to cement a lead. There's just nothing Gigabyte Marines can do. It does feel like they are being smothered out of the game, and Infernal Drake to add to the earlier one is perfect for the side of Mystic.
There we go. Make it double. Mystic himself actually picking up the Drake.
Closing in on a frame horizon of his own over his opposite number.
And one of the big things I actually like about the way WE drafted this game is this kind of comp just really prevents Gigabyte Marines from doing the thing they want to do. And like, it's so frustrating to see them engage and not get killed, but that's exactly what this comp does. And WE back up to their sieging tricks again, and Gigabyte Marines are like, hands on head, what do we do?
Yeah, and a lot of teams have tried to play this absorbing style against Gigabyte Marines and counter their engages, but for the most part, Gigabyte Marines engages have been too good, and they've had too many tools to pull off the engages, and they play too fast. But Team WE slowed down the game, took the tools away, and they're reaping the reward.
Oh, great little shot there. Slaying it low, has to flash. Heroic just burst straight in front of it as well, but turret does go down 957. Looking for something here. Already used the pitch, he's diving into the backline, stuck dead there as he can't quite get out from the rest of the team. Gigabyte Marines in full retreat once more. Optimus again getting shoved in. Does have his flash, good stun there into 957 is going to keep things a little better, but Daisy's out. Siege going to keep going.
Waiting for the minion wave before they attempt to break the base at 29 minutes. Answering Redemption.
Beautiful seismic shove there from Xie to get that fight started, and they cut off Levi temporarily.
Daisy's in. MSI going to move forward, jumping onto a carry. Optimus going to get polymorph, but he's going to dive into the backline. Xie takes out Slay with a shove, and Dime7 still living for a little while longer. So many shields, missing unstoppable. Takes one down. That's an ace for WE.
Frontline Caitlyn is enough to end the game, you'd have to imagine, for Team WE. 957's tankiness bought the time, and the skill shot accuracy from Xie won the game.
And Team WE just continues to scale up as this tournament progresses. They are destroying the Marines, and this will be a 30-minute win.
The Dragon team is getting stronger and stronger. 35 minutes not needed this time. Make it about 30 as WE destroy the Nexus turret. Mystic far forward, shooting the open Nexus. WE clinch second and take down the Gigabyte Marines.
confusing thing about that reference, the Elder Dragon team, that was the scouting report on them in China. It's not necessarily been the scouting report on them over at this tournament. They've been much more controlled in the early game. Certainly one of the better early game teams, and so frequently they are getting these wins pre-35 minutes.
The vast majority of their games have been fast. And the big worry for this team and for fans of this team coming in was the fact that their early game would be weak. And they have completely devoted themselves to playing faster, figuring out how to end the game. And this, a very strong style for them. Mystic has been so strong in the laning phase. They get everything to support him, and they take it to a quick and decisive win.
Often the teams that are contenders are the ones who can adapt to a tournament meta. And it feels like so many teams haven't been sure what the tournament meta is. Some teams are trying to make their own tournament meta, like the Gigabyte Marines. But it feels like WE, over time, has kind of scouted out. They've worked out that the early game power needs to largely be there. You cannot go fully late game or fully early game. They've worked around their limitations. They moved their vision so soundly that Levi had to camp a brush for 30 seconds.
7 minutes against the Flash Wolves.
All right, Kennen being banned away. I keep disagreeing with that ban just because I don't think Stark actually showed almost anything on that champion, but could be from scrims as well, where he has been dominating on it.
Yeah, I thought his Gragas and his Galio were both very good and should be highly prioritized.
Agree, 100% agree. Like the Ziggs ban here, does remove a lot of the playmaking from Slay. Now I want to look at a jungler here, because whenever Gigabyte Marines pick Graves, I actually feel like Levi doesn't do almost anything. When he plays Kha'Zix, however, he's won all his games here during the group stage, and he's been way more impactful and way harder to play against. So if he has to choose between the two, I know Graves is valued higher, but I actually want to see the Kha'Zix from him.
Yeah, I actually did like, so even though it was against SKT and they obviously ended up losing the game, he did go pretty proactive with the Graves in that one and chalk up a bunch of kills as well. But yes, I mean, you got to look for the very highlight moments for him, and those have been on Kha'Zix.
Flash Wolves might then feel like they want to take Graves' first pick here because of the Lee Sin ban. They're going with the Lulu though, so they're trying again to challenge Gigabyte Marines to pick between Graves and the Kha'Zix, and Gigabyte Marines, because it is Kha'Zix against, might feel forced to take Graves.
Yeah, Lulu has almost always been first pick if left up, here by the blue side.
Such an important pick. The Karma is still up and available as well, something we talked so much about all tournament long. The Marines, second game today. They played earlier and lost to Team WE in a fairly one-sided match, actually. They got a couple early kills, but didn't have their traditional strong early game that we've kind of come to expect from the Marines, and they're going to lock in their gallery.
I think they made, this lane swap again, and while they got 2 kills from it, they fell super far behind in CS, both top lane and bot lane, which then cost them experience in the long run, so they couldn't actually play early game after their swap. We like the Galio though top. It's such a strong pick right now.
Definitely agree. I think the Flash Wolves might go towards the Gragas in their first round on the backswing of this to try and grab it before more top lane bans do. Oh, never mind. Yeah, it was first banned out by them. So they're going to have to go with another option here. And yeah, that's a very good early pick there for GAM.
Good adaptation here for Slay as well. He lost the Varus in the ban phase last time around. It is available for him. Flash Wolves take the Graves. This means the Kha'Zix might come in from Gigabyte Marines, and that is where we see them really unleash the jungle.
I am quite excited about that if Levi can get his hands on that Kha'Zix. LeBlanc locked in for Maple. I'm also interested, when you run into this Galio, Fizz is gone, Gragas is gone. I mean, Shen is still up and available. Nautilus, I suppose, as well, but I think they're the carry matchups that maybe MMD could or would or might want to play.
I think MMD is a player that really does value tank versus tank matchups. And a lot of people have talked about that. He does feel more comfortable in those, especially since Fizz and Kled have already banned out and have been the other options. But there you go. The Kha'Zix does come through once again for Levi.
Gives some hope here for the Gigabyte Marines and their jungler to really try and carry the game. We've seen some insane performances on this specific champion. Ashe is a very likely ban right now against Betty, and also because they have the Varus picked already. I would at least like to see that next time.
And one of the reasons we're highlighting Galio and Kha'Zix so much, I also really love the way they work together. Kha'Zix is so good at getting into a good position, diving in, then using his ultimate for invisibility to buy time for Galio's heroic entrance on top.
Also, that could be a support, Galio. I'm just throwing it out there. Marines have shown some, explorative supports throughout the course of MSI and the play-ins. Rumble is still up and available, something else that I'm looking at. So MMD has played 8 times this year already. A lot of experience. Syndra is the ban towards Optimus. So now Optimus is running out of some options into this LeBlanc.
Exactly. Zed is, you know, a champion he's played before, but with so much physical damage already, and no Rumble being picked and even banned away, then that seems very unlikely. Ari, possibly for a skill matchup in favor of LeBlanc, though, just to add that part, especially early on in the laning phase, is an option as well, because Optimus is a guy he did really well earlier, but he's actually been struggling the last 2 days, and you don't want to put him in a bad matchup now.
Yeah, definitely been under pressure, and there's the Ari removed away, so one of the potential options. So Marines have to show their hand. Very slow pace during this pick and ban. Of course, for the Marines, their post-group lives on the line, and it's much the same for Flash Wolves.
I mean, yeah, we're on the last day, baby. Every game counts here. All right, yeah, so MMD and Optimus are really the two that have kind of taken the hit here as far as the second ban phase does come through. But it looks like they're going to retain their shroud of silence here from the Marines and not reveal yet.
I think banning or leaving Ashe open is a bit of a mistake. I think it is definitely the best AD carry pick for Betty down the bot lane, a guy who's not been performing too well himself.
Yeah, I'm not that big of a fan of Jin, and that's the next one that he does jump to as far as his personal tier of champions that he has been preferring.
Now obviously top lane needs to be shown. Nautilus is the very safe one right now if you don't want to risk anything. Galio's already confirmed as the top laner. Now Fiora is of course a pick a lot of people talk about as a counter matchup, but do you really want MFD to be the man that pulls it out? No, it is going to be the safe one.
Yeah, once again, I think he feels so much more at home in the tank versus tank matchups, where everybody gets to build rings, and that will be the case here. All right, what's it going to be, Optimus? What do you have in store for this LeBlanc? Kassadin is an option that I have seen before and still available.
Ryze is another option. He's not played any of those two champions here during MSI. Lissandra he used once. Did get some buffs here on this patch, but she's still extremely hard to execute.
Yeah, very slight buffs. 0.1 maybe AP scaling.
One game played, 100% win-loss, and a 17 KDA. What do you think of it into this LeBlanc? And now we see the Gigabyte Marines team composition come together. Hey, Glacial Tomb, and then you can just have Starhawk's Galio jumping in before or after that.
Yeah, I mean, the combinations look really impressive, and those are the things that always go through your head. With this team, the Marines are all about their mid-game, combining the multiple ultimates. And remember, you know, Optimus did play this Lissandra versus LeBlanc versus Supermassive to get into this stage of the tournament.
And that's the key thing. If Gigabyte Marines in the mid-game are at least even, then their all-in engage comp will make a lot of sense and be hard to play against. All-in engage comps though, if they do fall behind, it'll be so damn useless because you're like, we want to hard engage, but we don't actually want to fight because we're really far behind. And then you can't really do anything, but Gigabyte Marines, they don't think about that. Like, they're not going to say, oh, what if we fall behind? They're like, no, we're going to get ahead. And that's how we can use our comp.
Gigabyte Marines have really shown up this group stage. They've taken a game of everybody except SKT and now Flash Wolves. Will this be the time? Will the Marines advance? If they do it in 57 minutes, if they win, they advance. They get that Pool 1 seed for the GPL for the first time in professional League of Legends history.
And I honestly do not see a Gigabyte Marines game going longer than 50 minutes. Anyway, so, all right, it is going to be exciting here. Let's get onto the Rift as soon as possible.
Lissandra pick. Old school counter to LeBlanc, where back in the days when a lot of LeBlanc's damage was from the distortion, you know, she would jump in, land the damage from the distortion, you could just press W as Lissandra, you would snare her, you would ult her, you would just burst her down with your team. LeBlanc is much more poke focused right now though, and doesn't need to W into the face of the enemy.
Yeah, even so, LeBlanc still has to wait for, you know, the channel of that passive currently, and it could be a good interruption even later in 5-on-5s.
We'll have to see when we get there. The Marines don't tend to give you a lot of time to figure out the state of the game. Definitely like to be proactive. They've got double teleports as well. That's going to enable them. It is matched by the Flash Wolves, of course. MMD and Maple going to have the options to do the same. And it doesn't look like any lane swap shenanigans. They've done that, what, 3 times already this group stage?
Yeah,
even this time.
Definitely not needed with Varus and Nami as your bot lane. Kind of defeats the purpose of picking the Nami, as she really shines in that laning phase. But interesting enough as well, Graves for Casa, like, we know it's such a good pick. But when he's been playing that Graves and when other junglers are playing him, like, so often it's about you. Like, you're the man getting fed. You're the man who then needs...
You're the badass.
You're the badass. And the problem then is when Casa's been doing this, MMD has struggled because he didn't get any help. The bot lane would have then maybe died to a gank or in a 2v2, won't get any help. And then Flash Wars have fallen really far behind because Casa couldn't really assist his lanes while he's farming on Graves. But of course, if they can just have standard laning, it's gonna be fine.
And it has kind of seemed like MMD up in the top lane has been a bit of a trap for the Wolves. Even when Karsa did try and camp for him, not a lot gained out there, and it actually took away from his pressure on the other side of the map. So we shall see how they deal with it this time around.
Which lane they're going to prioritize. All right, taking a look at the assignments in the early push. Actually a lot of wave clear on really every single side of this map, so no room for error when it comes to deciding when and where you want to go forward.
And I am definitely looking at that top lane possibility here, as it is a blue buff start for Levi, not going with the Raptors' extra experience on this Kha'Zix. He will be ending, or having the possibility of ending right up there.
And Levi has life to just farm on Kha'Zix, get level 6 before he really joins the team. He's so often looking for the 1v1s, more than he's necessarily looking for a gank on the Kha'Zix. The same thing can be said obviously for Casa on Graves. You have to respect the red buff, what he can do, level 3, level 4.
All right, great hawk shot there from Betty, revealing the jungle cleared out by the Marines, some information now the Fractals can use to discern Levi's path and decision. He's cleared out the Raptor camp, making his way to the Bramble back, as you can see Casa on the opposite left-hand quadrant doing similar to what's from Blue.
And jungling is all about judging the current state of the game and adapting currently. The top lane not trading heavily, so that should be an indicator that the junglers will just continue to farm here as Karsa takes down the Scuttle Crab.
So, yeah,
you did
those mechanics.
You did it!
A little bit of jumps back and forth, a Justice punch to the face for MMD.
Casa here for a lane gank, but also trying to maybe counter gank Levi.
Yeah, I talk about the trading. It has started to come in.
Ridgeline's already been used. Carson's going to be able to dash forward. Does indeed. End of the line comes out. The red buff is ticking. Flashes away from Star.
Yeah, so I like this move from Casa. He stays around in flash auto attack range, forcing Casa to go for the early flash.
Exactly. You have to respect it there, because if he flashes for the auto's in the air, you can't reactively flash and you die anyway.
Luckily for Stark though, he actually got killed a few minions. Now he goes back and TPs to lane anyway. He didn't ever lose the flash, that is the key thing. And this early on in the game, you're not that tanky with your double Doran's ring. Graves can return.
Also, Graves didn't have to use the blast cone, so you have to be worried here if you are a Levi about repeat ganks there. They don't have any extra vision, so he is waiting around for a little bit while the camps respawn.
See what happens with Levi here. A little bit of pressure as MMD's making his way up. He did not teleport. Going to save that one down as Stark has already used his interlane.
Yeah, it's mostly a defensive move, as we said, by Levi. He's waiting around for the repeat gank. As you can see, Karsa is continuing to farm, and he doesn't show up. So as soon as the wave is fully shoved, that means you can recall as a jungler, because the turret is going to push it back.
With this composition here, Gigabyte Marines, they can't really force too much early on. But that's not really been a problem for them, because we've actually seen in quite a few games recently how they would go even in the early laning phase, but then once the mid game hits, that's where they start roaming and starting fights.
Exactly. Yesterday, very big for them. Not against Team WE as well. Farming all working out very decently so far. We just have to keep in mind the flash cooldown for the top lane as a point that maybe you'll see some extra vision being lended to Stark's aid.
We're starting to see level 6s on the horizon. MMD, Stark, Optimus, and Maple very close to unlocking that. We talked about a little bit earlier how both sides have got quite ridiculous wave clear actually. But then you also look at it, both sides have got a ton of crowd control that they can work with to set up any of these plays.
And a lot of that crowd control does come from the mid lane. Now, as a jungler, working around mid lane level 6 is a very big breakpoint in the game. If you can communicate with your laner to shove the wave on your level 6 wave and have the ability ready before the enemy mid laner, then that completely destroys any sort of 2 versus 2.
No way from able to get out of Alessandro ulti. That's why he's respecting the fact that he doesn't actually have vision of the enemy Kha'Zix. He steps back, takes the wave. He's smart playing. It's small things, but it's very important. A lot of mid laners tend to still go forward and maybe look for a little trade, then they get caught and die to a game.
Exactly. And keep in mind as well, when you are messing around with these level 6 mid laners,